wonderful people. I'm gonna go ahead and try to do us a big favor here, and make more sense of this redemption process by reading the Redemption Manual. Okay, a step-by-step guide to reclaiming your personal freedom. Okay, for years they have attempted to hide from us our nation's godly law, but now the truth is out. To regain your God inspired marvelous freedom, the Redemption Manual Index. We're going to go ahead and bust down. Matter of fact, we're just going to begin, okay? But there's a disclaimer here. It says, read carefully and act. I, the Son, have come to set you free, and who the Son sets free, you are free indeed. Your redemption is here. Your power of attorney, in fact, is written. The IRS has been uncovered by their own law. You have been filing the wrong form. Okay, here's the preface or preface. Understand your road to freedom. Every phase our lives are in commerce. Yeah, let me go ahead and edit it the best way I can do it. Every phase of our lives are in commerce. You need your straw man to operate in commerce. Your straw man has a license to operate in commerce, i.e., that is, driver's license, marriage license, handgun license, occupational license, building permits, etc. A license is good as long as you want it to be. Okay? A license is as good as you want it. As long as you want it to be. Okay? Try that again. A license is as good as long as you want it to be. Alright? So it is as good as long as you want it to be. By your permission. Okay. When there is a fine for misuse of your license, you need to learn how to then switch the strawman to the living soul with the right to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. The strawman is a transmitting utility that allows you to operate in commerce with a license to conduct your commercial affairs. Anyone operating in commerce without a license is committing a commercial crime. You and I need to learn how to become the representative or agent for the straw man and conduct all of her commercial affairs without getting involved. All crimes are commercial and are then regulated by commercial courts. Commercial crimes are murder, stealing, dealing in illegal drugs, prostitution, practicing law, or making a legal determination without the permission or consent by assent of any party to a contract. All commerce is ruled by contracts. All courts, tribunals are ruled by contracts. Absent a contract, the court, tribunal will proceed to write a contract under case or cause number. Cause or case number. Will the defendant rise? What is your name? This is the signature of the contract. How do you plead? This is the giving of the subject matter jurisdiction and becomes part of the consideration for the contract. All the arguments are the offer for the contract, and the judgment is the acceptance for the contract. The court takes a complaint, turns it into a charge against the straw man, tries him or her on the charge, and then a judgment is rendered, which is a civil action, a claim, and this must then be accepted by the living soul. That is the man or woman. To accept a judgment in two ways, by silence and signing the judgment, or by appealing it to a higher court, a third party who will then agree with the judgment. Why would you argue law or codes, rules, regulations, procedures, statutes, when the contract is the law in your case? So the facts are on the moon. The redemption process or acceptance for value can then authorize the payment of the judgment. The judgment should be signed by the court clerk, for they are the court. In most cases, the judge will sign the judgment, hoping that you will accept the contract by one of the above two ways: by silence or signature, or appeal to a third party. Another way is the rejection of contracts allowed under truth in lending. And when the contract is about mortgages, it comes under Regulation Z and truth in lending. Always remember, everything is in commerce, Everything is in commerce and is ruled by contracts, okay? Remember, everything is in commerce and is ruled by contracts. Codes, rules, regulations, procedures, statutes apply only to the corporation that they were written for. Okay? You do not argue codes, regulations, rules, statutes in commerce. You argue contracts. If there is no contract, there is no case. There is no contract with a policeman, government official, federal agent, or federal agency, even with a license. A government or corporation is a fiction and cannot sign a contract or enforce one unless you enter into their organization or corporation as an employee or argue their codes, rules, regulations, procedures, whereby they then use these to enforce a contract. Read the book 5 times and then write your questions down. Then call Commerce Contracts. That's all there is. Okay, well, we're off to a good start there. Let's keep going. Understanding contracts / corporations. My new motto is to say no more. The best way to do this. Oh, no, catch the double meaning? No more. Okay. All right. Understand contracts, corporations. My new motto is just say no more. No as in no. Let me spell it out. Knowledge. Here we go. No, knowledge, more. Okay. No more. Catch the double meaning. No more. No. No more. I don't want it. No more. But we do want more knowledge, right? It's time to understand what is really going on. Open our eyes and take back our country. The best way to do this is to hit them where it hurts, their financial statements. What is the most effective way to make others change? Change your behavior toward them. If you want a child to stop behaving mean, you simply tell the child that until he plays nicely, you won't play with him anymore. If that child needs you, he will quickly change his ways. So, we tell the police departments, county sheriff offices, states, and feds that they aren't playing by the rules of full disclosure, and tell them we won't play with them anymore. Now, when they change towards us, we still won't play with them because they are not cute little children. They are giant corporations that have nothing to do with lawful government. Read that again. They are giant corporations that have nothing to do with lawful government. And that is the point. America hasn't been a sovereign nation with lawful government in more than a century. Some even argue that there never have been lawful governments, as every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He is not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow man without his consent. Cruden versus Neely. Second NC 338 1796 to SE 70. Not certain what that is. And the key phrase there is without his consent. You must voluntarily give your consent to enter into contracts with these corporations. Remember what Nietzsche wrote. Yep, that is Nietzsche, right? Is it Nietzsche? Nietzsche? Remember what Nietzsche wrote? Everything the state says is a lie. The state declares they are a state. And this is true. But what is a state? The state of Texas is a subcorporation of the United States, which is a corporation operating in commerce for a profit. Now, some may ask, what's the difference if they operate as a corporation? Well, if they operate as a not-for-profit corporation and the stockholders were we the people, then we might be okay. But the fact is that every municipality, school district, public works, state, federal agency, and the United States operate in commerce for a profit, and you and I are not the stockholders. These corporations are privately held companies. Think about that for a minute. The entity we call government is actually a corporation that is not owned by the American people. Who makes the corporations responsible to the people? Do they watch themselves and never harm anyone? No, we have to go sue XYZ company because they know their tires were causing hundreds of deaths. But XYZ company didn't want to take responsibility because the bottom line was more important to them than human life. Once this system went into corporate status, it ceased to be government. Before becoming a corporation, no one ever had to register to vote. Now they say that everyone must be registered. This is not true. Try it sometime. Go down to vote in a local election in which you are an inhabitant of that area, but are not registered to vote. Tell them that it is your right to vote and that you do not have to be registered. Most likely you will be allowed to vote, but they won't be very fond of you. You may be asking, doesn't registered simply mean signed up? Not quite. When you register yourself, you record formally and exactly in a list or the like. Sounds innocent enough. Now, whom do you register with? The registrar. A registrar is an officer who has the custody and charge of keeping of a registry or register. Some examples of registries are registries of copyrights, deeds, wills, motor vehicles, and patents. These all have to do with property, not people. Other registries, such as registries of births, deaths, marriages, voter registration, college registration, and the like, all have to do with registering natural people. Now we are going to take a leap. What really is a registry? Generally, a registry applies to vessels in foreign commerce, whereas enrollment refers to coastwise navigation. When we register ourselves, we are saying that we are vessels in foreign commerce. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But that is why our names magically become capitalized on all of the various registrations: military, voting, birth certificates, death certificates, credit cards, etc. This essay presumes that you have an understanding of the all capitalized fictional name versus proper names that only have the first letter capitalized. All vessels, ships have capitalized names. After registering, we are no longer dealt with as natural living souls, but as vessels operating in foreign commerce. What is the foreign commerce in which we are operating? Corporate commerce. Corporations cannot do business with natural beings, so we enter their jurisdictions to do business with corporations when we become a vessel, because a vessel is not a normal being, and a vessel with a flag law we've been studying. Sorry, got a phone call, came in, so. A vessel is a fiction, just as a corporation is a fiction. And now the two fictions are capable of transacting business. This all ties in with the law we've been studying. Many people for years now have said that we are under maritime law and have had us study maritime admiralty law for court. After all, the flag flown in all of the court is a military flag, and therefore the law they are advertising by the flag is admiralty. So we are viewed as vessels because we registered as such. We are all vessels in a sea of commerce, and all courts are commercial courts for commercial fictions, not lawful common law courts for real people. Page 1 of 4, Understanding Contracts, Corporations. Right? Continuing. Okay, now we are a vessel. A vessel enters contracts with other vessels under law of the flag. If we do not like this law their flag represents, or if we do not like the laws their flag represents, then we do not contract with that other vessel. The flag is your warning. Nice. Of what law you will control. Excuse me. Won't do that again. The flag is your warning of what laws will have control of the contract. When you submit a contract, which is a false vessel, which is itself a vessel, where is your flag? If your contract does not display a flag, then you are tacitly submitting to the laws of their flag. But you say there is no flag displayed on their contract, right? And wrong. There is no flag on the face of the contract, but there is a flag somewhere in their building or in front of their building. Every bank displays a United States flag, not an American flag. Most large corporations have the corporate United States flag, the corporate state flag, and other companies' own corporate flag flying in front of their buildings. Haven't you ever wondered why big corporations have their own flags? These represent the codes, rules, and regulations that governs their contracts. My kid's college is a good example. All three flags fly right in front of the Bible building. For goodness sake, it's astounding how they disclose their intentions and we haven't a clue as to what is really going on. Again, someone will most likely ask, what is wrong with these flags? Good question, big answer. The flags are for corporations that abide by rules, codes, and regulations, not laws. Allow me an analogy. What corporate name pops into your head when I tell you to think of LARG Corporation? All capital, spelled large corporation. Okay, keep that Big 500 Club name in mind during the following analogy. Analogy? After 4 grueling interviews with multiple tests, you finally land that job at the big company. The boss sends you down to human resources to fill out paperwork. One of the forms you must sign is an acknowledgement form for an employee handbook that states you have received, understood, or understand, and will abide by the rules, codes, and regulations of the corporation. Some of those rules will deal with dress code, tobacco usage, protocols, harassment, sick time, vacation pay, and even disciplinary actions. Excitedly, you sign the acknowledgement contract and start work bright and early Monday morning. You are in your finest suit with shoes polished and it's real good hair day. And it's a real good hair day. I, your best friend, show up to take you out for a celebration lunch. I work for myself, though doing landscaping, and I'm in my usual attire, overalls, t-shirts, work boots. This outfit doesn't meet the standard for the company's dress code and your coworkers look at me kind of funny. But I do not work for this company, nor did I agree to abide by its dress code, so they cannot tell me how to dress because they have no jurisdiction, no contract with me. Now, what you must understand is that the government is no more than a private corporation. They have corporate codes, rules, and regulations for their corporate employees, just as that big 500 company did in our analogy. Since these codes are not laws, why does everyone follow them as if they are law? Why does the corporate government think you must follow their codes, rules, and regulations? The reason is because you say you are an employee. You state that you are an employee of the United States every time you file a Form 1040 with the IRS, as that form is only for employees. The IRS takes you at your word and treats you as an employee. The same is true for state taxation forms. You also assert that you are an United States corporate employee every time you answer yes to the question, are you a United States citizen? How many times have you done that? Maybe 20 or more. Think of all of the forms you have signed that ask that very question. W-4s, I-9s, passports, driver's license, job applications, school registrations, credit card applications, Brady Bill forms. The list is endless. United States corporate citizens are subject to all of the codes, rules, and regulations of the company. If you claim national citizenship, please remember that America is your state. Or your state is the nation you claim, not the United States corporation. Personally, I am an inhabitant of Texas, and my citizenship is in heaven. The bottom line is that when we are dealing with corporations, we are dealing with contracts. Erie Railroad versus Tompkins, very, very well-known case amongst this movement. Just as I did not have a contract with the Big 500 company and did not have to adhere to its dress code, I don't have to contract with the United States corporation. So I don't have a contract with the United States corporation, so I don't have to adhere to their employee codes. Everything is by contract. Even the courts are corporations and operate by contract. Everything offered to you, either verbally or in writing, is a new offer of contract. Think about these examples and start noticing how many times each day you get offers of contracts. A traffic ticket, a parking ticket, a code enforcement violation for your car, for your yard not being mowed. Excuse me. Building permit, a jury duty notice, a notice of bill for property taxes, a bill to re-register your car, a notice of bill for state, federal taxes, a notice from your bank or credit card company that there will be higher charges for late payments, etc. The list is eternal because everything between you and a corporation is an offer of contract. The good news is that all contracts can be accepted or rejected within a 72-hour period under the Truth in Lending Act. You can reject an offer of contract. This includes rescinding contracts that you accept and for whatever reason have changed your mind about accepting. What happens when a police officer pulls you over and gives you a ticket? Do you have a choice as to whether or not you are going to sign that ticket? Of course not. Do you even have the choice as to how you are going to sign the ticket? Not anymore. My brother Steve was stopped last week and he called me to ask how he should sign the ticket. Steve was ready when the police officer returned and handed him the ticket, but the officer told Steve to sign his name and only his name. Wow. Forced contracts under threat, duress, and coercion. Is this the land of the free? Page 2 of 4, Understanding Contracts Corporation. It's decision time. If we start rejecting all offers of contract that demand money out of our pockets, we will hit them where it hurts. Eventually, they will have no more choice but to shut their doors, as would any business whose sales have dropped off. The only difference between the corporate government and your local five and dime is that you actually get something in return for your money at the local five and dime. For those of you that still believe we have to support our government through taxation, I simply point you to Ronald Reagan's Grace Commission report of 1984. 100% of what is collected is absorbed solely by interest on the federal debt and by the federal transfer payments. In other words, all individual income tax revenues are gone before a nickel is spent on the services taxpayers expect from government. I have to do that again. 100% of what is collected is absorbed solely by interest on the federal debt and by federal transfer payments. In other words, all individual income tax revenues are gone before one nickel is spent on the services taxpayers expect from government. This country operates today on the same source of revenue as it did prior to the income tax, duties or imposts or imported goods, and excise taxes on domestic goods that are non-essential items. This is all the revenue required to run the government. The next standard objection is a book in itself and requires a good deal of research to understand, but I want to try to briefly answer one more objection that most people of good moral character will raise in regard to the federal debt. That question is, don't we have to pay our debts? If this were an honest debt, what do you or I incur and agree to pay? Then by all means, the answer would be an overwhelming yes. If this were an honest debt that you and I are incurred and agreed to pay, then by all means the answer would be an overwhelming yes. However, that is not the case with the federal debt. The federal is the United States Corporation, again, a privately held company that artificially created this outrageous debt and then made you and I believe we were responsible to pay their debts for them. The debt is what the corporate owner created and lent back to their sub-corporations. It's not even a real debt. It's fraud, which coincidentally stands for Federal Reserve Accounting Unit Denominations fraud. Ooh, that's important and very powerful. Indeed. All right. That was very, very nice. Let's see. Federal Reserve Accounting Unit denominations fraud. If that big 500 corporation from our analogy came to you and said, hey, we need your help in getting rid of our debt, you may feel a modicum of sympathy for the corporation, but would you pay their debt for them? No way. Then why are you paying this private company's artificial and fraudulent debt simply because they titled their corporation United States? The corporate government is nothing more than a pyramid scheme leeching off of the hardworking productive sector. Back to my new motto, just say no more. All definitions are from Black's Law Dictionary 6th edition. The following accounts should help you understand the point of this essay. Everything is about contracts. Contract story number 1. In February of 2000, I was on my way to visit my mom in New Mexico. She just had emergency surgery and needed someone to look after her. The doctors explained that there were heart complications, so I rushed to her side. I unfortunately am the queen of tickets, so now rushing to me equates to 5 miles over the posted limit. The last thing I wanted was to prolong the trip by having a police officer pull me over, but a lesson was in the making, and sure enough, a Texas Highway Patrol had nothing better to do than harass me. He badgered me into telling him why I was in a hurry. He proceeded to verify my story by calling my mother at the hospital, as if she didn't have enough to worry about. She almost lost her life the day before, and then he still writes me a ticket, and not for 5 miles over, but 10. So I write the judge a letter explaining why we don't have joinder, and I asked him to answer a few questions. Without knowing it, I had rejected his offer of contract. I don't show up by the date allowed, so the nice judge writes me a letter of extension and gives me 2 more weeks to appear. I call him and ask him what law he is using to prosecute the case. He doesn't even understand the question, so I say, is it Admiralty, Maritime, Common, Statutory, UCC, what? To which he replies, it's anything I want it to be. Well, that narrows things down, doesn't it? I then ask him if this is a civil or criminal matter, and he says it's both. So now I don't have a clue what law to study in order to fight this, nor do I really understand what I'm being charged under. During this phone conversation, the judge tells me it's going to have time to go over all of this in person when I come down. Oh, sorry. During this phone conversation, the judge tells me he isn't going to have time to go over all of this in person when I come down. I tell him that I am coming down to fight this and that he may want to have the county attorney help him look over the questions in my letter. He didn't take too kindly to that suggestion. He also said that he didn't even have a flag in his chambers. So do not worry about jurisdiction. Ooh, deceptive. Page 3 of 4, Understanding Contracts Corporation. The day comes to appear in the judge's chambers to talk about the ticket. Wouldn't you know it, there's a tiny flag in the pen holder on the judge's desk. Well, I'll be. No flag, huh? There is also a county attorney Alrighty. There is also a county attorney that has to be present before the judge will allow my husband and I into his chamber. I began by holding my flag, handing the judge a 4-page letter and telling him that this is a special, not general, appearance. The letter explains why the court and I don't have joinder. The next 20 minutes is a jurisdictional tug-of-war in which the judge and county attorney try in earnest to let me to plea including. Try in earnest to let me to plea including. The judge telling me that he is going to enter a plea for me. To which I respond with, Judge, you can't practice law from the bench. The county attorney finally knows I'm not going to give in, so he asked, Young lady, do you have a driver's license? I said, Yes, sir. Unfortunately, I do. He going to give me... What? He then turns to the judge and says, Judge, she says, appeared before you to... She has appeared before you today, and she has a driver's license. So she has waived her rights. I waived my rights. You know, that light bulb that goes off over the heads of cartoon characters when they get a great idea. At that very moment, that same light bulb appeared over my head. I realized that it was all about contracts. Thinking quickly, I turned to the judge and asked him to remind the county attorney that I had reserved my rights on the face of the ticket and that I had made a special appearance under threat of imprisonment, which in no way waives my rights. The county attorney then asked the judge to grant a continuance so that he could review my 4-page letter. The judge did so and told me to return a month later. I got home and recounted the story for a friend of mine. The friend said, Oh, Ann, you just gave them jurisdiction. Sit down right now and write that judge and tell him you didn't agree to do that continuance. I did just that and told the judge that I wasn't coming back on that date or any other date. This letter was a bit different. Instead of asking him to dismiss the ticket, which sounds as if I am granting jurisdiction, I demanded him to immediately cease and desist the proceedings under the color of law against the sovereign. Well, it has been 2 years and no warrants were ever issued for my arrest. Not only did I have 2 insider friends check to see if warrants were put out on me, but I was arrested. Most of the best people are. In December of 2001 on a contempt charge, and no outstanding warrants were on my record. The contempt charge is what I got for trying to help a friend in court. Don't go into their court if you can help it. I know that sometimes it's unavoidable and even necessary. You are granting jurisdiction just by being there if you don't know exactly how to challenge it. Please don't play their game on their field. They have the home court advantage and the guns to back up when they feel like it, or to back it up when they feel like it. Contract story number 2. In 1999, I was attempting to help the same friend in story number 1. The city animal control division informed him that he couldn't have all of the animals he was feeding and housing. We, being the good law-abiding people we are, wrote a letter to the judge inquiring as to how the city's code could violate the Constitution. There was no response to the letter. So after about a month, we began to inquire as to when a response would be forthcoming. As it turned out, the judge had given the letter to the city attorney, and we wound up in her office discussing the matter. My friend asked questions, while I tape recorded the conversation, and one of his witnesses testified to the city attorney that animal control had actually gone into my friend's yard and taken some of the animals. The conversation eventually came to the Constitution and flag law. My friend asked what laws the city went by since we believed their codes were in direct violation of the Constitution, at which point the city attorney became visibly upset and practically yelled at my friend. She said, Mr. Darlick, we go by the city of Abilene laws, the state of Texas laws, and the United States laws. As you would assume, we left that meeting in a very confused state. It took more than a year for us to understand what the city attorney had meant by her statement. She said that the city abides by corporate codes. Since corporate codes are all about contracts, and we all have the right to contract, the city codes do not abrogate the Constitution, but she couldn't and wouldn't disclose that to us. That's how they do. That's how Freemasonry is, actually. That is their game. They get you to contract and then you're stuck. Unless you know how to reject their offers of contract, please retain your rights through process. What you and I were taught was government is nothing more than a privately held corporation, and what you and I were taught were laws are nothing more than corporate codes, rules, and regulations that have nothing to do with living souls unless you work as an employee for that company. The truth, the true birth, verified by the Creator God. In order, a declaration by affidavit confirming those things most surely believed. Luke 1, chapter 1, verse 1 to 4. Now the birth involving Jack Rabbit Patriot was on this wise, and at the time appointed, I, Jack Rabbit Patriot, being legal age, making the following statement and declaration that on God's personal word and knowledge they are true. At the time, life by God was birthed on the land, Cottontail County, Texas. Jack Rabbit's birth date, Genesis 18, chapter 18, verses 10 to 14. Signed accordingly by God's by God's word on Jack Rabbit's birth date. Holy Scripture. Picture. This is an affidavit, apparently. Wow. I wonder what sort of affidavit this would be. So apparently, it would be an affidavit of true birth, verified by Creator, maybe. Well, that's a good-looking affidavit there for this book. American people, wake up. Attribute it to, if it is not his, it is appropriate. Edward Mandell House. Sent by the powers that rule the democracy commercial government form England, worked with and controlled all the presidents from Woodrow Wilson through Franklin Delano Roosevelt in establishing all that the American people are reaping by slavery, had this private meeting with Woodrow Wilson in 1913, or at least in between 1913 and 1921. That's when Woodrow Wilson sat, and stated, very soon, every American will be required to register their biological property in a national system designed to keep track of the people and that will operate under the ancient system of pledging. By such methodology, we can compel people to submit to our agenda, which will affect our security as a chargeback for our fiat paper currency. Every American will be forced to register or suffer being able to work and earn a living. They will be our chattel, and we will hold the security interest over them forever. By operation of the law merchant under the scheme of secure transactions, Americans, by knowingly or unwittingly delivering the bills of lading to us, will be rendered bankrupt and insolvent, forever to remain economic slaves through taxation secured by their pledges. They will be stripped of their rights and given a commercial value designed to make us a profit, and they will be none the wiser. For not one man in a million could ever figure out our plans, and if by accident one or two should figure it out, we have in our arsenal plausible deniability. After all, this is the only logical way to fund government, by floating liens and debt to the registrants in the form of benefits and privileges. This will inevitably reap to us huge profits beyond our wildest expectations and leave every American a contributor to this fraud, which we will call social insurance. Without realizing it, every American will insure us for any loss we may incur. And in this manner, every American will unknowingly be our servant, however begrudgingly. The people will become helpless and without any hope for their redemption, and we will employ the high office of the president of our dummy corporation to foment this plot against America. Use the redemption process, power of attorney, in fact, be a free man or woman. All right, I believe that previous affidavit was the power of attorney. This is wonderful reading. A word of warning. There have been many and various people who have used the side drafts, and there have been many and various people who have been tried by the courts and are now in prison. Site drafts, or CMOs, create debt, and the only debt creator is the Federal Reserve Board Bank. The UCC gives the Federal Reserve Board wide latitude in making a determination whether an instrument is fraudulent or legal. A sovereign cannot create debt. It is her energy that creates payment for the debt created by the Federal Reserve Board Bank and all their corporations. Stay with the acceptance for value program. Not one living soul has been arrested for use and implementation. Reduce the debt. Learn the acceptance for value and affidavit denial corporations existence, and protect yourself, the living soul, in the corporate commerce world. All right, flag, registered mail number, stamp, with your name signed over the stamp. Understand the flag. The law of the flag, an international law, which is recognized by every nation of the planet, is defined as a rule to the effect that a vessel is a part of the territory of the nation whose flag she flies. The term is used to designate the right under which a ship owner who sends his vessel into a foreign port gives notice by his flag to all who enters into contracts with the ship master that he intends the law of the flag to regulate those contracts, and that they must either submit to its operation or not contract with him or his agents at all. Roostrat, Ruhstrat versus People, 57 NE 41. Registration. When you register yourself, you record formally and exactly in a list or the like with a registrar. A registrar is an officer who has the custody and charge of keeping of a registry or register. What really is a registry? Generally, a registry applies to vessels in foreign commerce. When we register ourselves, we have registered ourselves as vessels in foreign commerce. Flag. Everything moving in commerce is a vessel. Spaceships, satellites, seagoing ships, planes, buses, automobiles, the mails, persons, and believe it or not, contracts. Just as a ship must fly a flag to designate its nationality, laws of contract, your paperwork needs to display a flag in order to establish who you are and what law you will use to contract. Stamp. All vessels charge a freight fee to deliver their cargo. Likewise, we must pay a freight fee as the authority to deliver our cargo, i.e., the paperwork we send needs to have a stamp on it. The paper is the vessel. The words are the cargo. The flag designates the law, and the stamps show that we have paid the fee to deliver our cargo. Place the colored flag on the upper left-hand corner as you are looking at the page. The Bonnie Blue is what I use. And place a dollar stamp in the upper right-hand corner. Write your autograph over the stamp to cancel it, thus making you the postmaster. Whatever flag you choose to use, remember not to use a gold French flag as is under their jurisdiction, or as that is under their jurisdiction and not your common law jurisdiction. Let me repeat that. Whatever flag you choose to use, remember not to use a gold French flag, as that is under their jurisdiction and not your common law jurisdiction. Registered. Use registered mail to identify your vessel. This places your document vessel into international law and gives it recognition in international commerce. This is another assertion that you are in fact foreign to the jurisdiction they are trying to place you under. This number now becomes the case number for any and all paperwork related to the first document sent. Jolly Roger. If you come upon a flag that is not recognized in international law, it is a pirate flag. Anything attached to a Title 4 USC 1 2 flag, i.e. gold fringe, that is gold fringe, mutilates the flag and under Title 4 USC 3 carries a 1-year prison term. The gold fringe is an added color and represents color of law when placed upon the Title 4 USC, United States Code, flag. The fringe is a mutilation. What? The fringe on the flag is a mutilation? It suspends the Constitution and it establishes color of law. That's not good, guys. The gold fringe flag that utilizes color of law and pretends to be the American flag is not the American flag of peace. It is a pirate flag, and it is your warning as to whom what you are about to do business with. Army Regulation 260-10 states that the gold fringe may be used only on regimental colors, the president's flag. For a military court's martial, right? Marital, martial. Hey, I'm reading. The president's flag for a military court's martial and for the flags used at military recruiting centers. Courts. The flag in courts is the court's advertisement of the laws governing their contracts. If you do not wish to contract with these courts, then jurisdiction must be challenged. In order to correctly challenge jurisdiction, you must remember Gertie versus Logan. Girty versus Logan. Logan. 6 Bush KY, not jelly, but KY, and an 8, which states it is an elementary rule of pleading that a plea to the jurisdiction is a tacit admission that the court has a right to judge in the case and is a waiver to all exception to the jurisdiction, which means that if you plead, you have waived your rights to challenge jurisdiction. And when the judge attempts to enter a plea for you and says that the state statutes allow him to do so, tell him no, that he cannot practice law from the bench and that he is not your attorney and you do not give him permission to act on your behalf. Read the courts by contracts section in this manual for further information. Lawgiver.org, U.S. Postal Service for the Post Office. You may want to get rid of your mailbox and take the numbers off of your house. These signify a commercial address and not your location as a good and lawful Christian man or woman. Since 1863, the military took over control of what once was the post office's general delivery was the only... Oops. Let me go back. I think I'm going a little too fast. Since 1863, the military took over control of what once was the post office. General delivery was the only form of mail prior to that time. Was common to all people. Reading it as it's written. The current U.S. Postal Service, USPS, is in effect today as a corporation under military rule that services only the commercial persona in the field of military occupation. However, the common law post office still exists, and general delivery has never been abolished, just hidden. This is why it is imperative that all Christians call for their mail in general delivery at the post office and no longer accept commercial free delivery by the USPS. Let's first get it straight that the God ruling our government today is the God of commerce. Mercurius. Let me say it again. Mercurius. Mercury? You may know him as Mercury. Oh, there you go. He is the god of profit and gain, and his fellow god, Mars, the god of war, protects Mercury's interest. They were around when Jesus was taken up to a high mountain by the prince and ruler of this world, the boss and king of Mars and Mercury. Shaitan, Satan, Lucifer, however you want to call this dude, devil. All right, that's what they're talking about. Our Lord was shown all the worldly nations The prince of this world tempted Jesus with these nations by saying, I will give you all this power along with their glory, because they have been given to me, and to whomsoever I wish to give them to. If you'll worship me, and all of this will be yours. Quite a bribe. But Jesus told him, Get behind me, Satan. Praise Jesus. It's written that you must worship the Lord your God, and only him will you serve. And that is Luke chapter 4, verse 5 to 8. As God's great fallen angel, the worldly prince knew this well. Residents, bar attorneys, individuals, natural persons, corporations, homeowners, homesteaders, officers, trusts, taxpayers, partnerships, directors, IRS, 501c3 churches, and citizens. All these names are federal and state statute or administrative code defined fictional entities, are addressed by numbers and street name or P.O. box. These terms do not represent the good and lawful Christian man or woman. You are none of these fictional names in commerce, but once you accept free delivery at an address, you have voluntarily taken on commercial name or persona addressed in the letter. General delivery to transients or sojourners have never been altered or changed since Lincoln's War. In common law, general delivery is a vested right that cannot be denied to a Christian as long as he is operating outside of commercial free delivery. You cannot be in a pardon me. You cannot be in common law and commercial statute law at the same time. The non-commercial side of the post office still exists as general delivery, where one calls for his first-class mail rather than accepting commercial delivery at an address. Lincoln instituted commercial free delivery on July 1st, 1863. Prior to this time, postal matter was picked up or called for by a patron at his local post office. Notice that customers did not call for their mail, as a customer is a fictional commercial vendee of the vendor, the USPS. When you receive mail by free delivery at your mailbox, you are a commercial customer by implied contract. When you accept free delivery, you accept the benefit of a commercial venue in contract. A Christian cannot be under contract of commercial benefit at the same time he claims to be under the covenant of God. So Freemasonry right there you go. You're exposed. Bam. Sorry. Anyway, according to the postal laws and regulations of 1932, letters delivered free on post routes are defined as commercial. Gas, electric, water, and tax bills or other statements of accounts, orders for merchandise, etc. It's lawfully correct to conclude from this that free delivery is only made through a delivery route, and that all free delivered letters on this route are commercial taxes and commercial merchandise. This means that all those who receive their mail at an address or a mailbox are those who are in contract to pay government debt or other debts. General delivery is intended for use primarily at C, any post office to serve transients and customers not permanently located. The post office domestic mail manual at D930 1.1. The post office domestic mail manual at capital D 930, 1.1 point. Or no, 1.1, that's the end of the keywords are transients and location. Notice this does not say addressee or address, which are considered commercial terms. As a sojourner in the land of the Lord, you are a transient. The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine. For ye are strangers and sojourners with me. Leviticus 25:23. All right. From 1932 until today, the U.S. Postal Service regulations only restrict residents persons and customers. A Christian is a sojourner or transient, and there are no restrictions concerning the same. This is why calling for your mail in general delivery is still recognized in common law and is a traditionally vested right that has never been altered, amended, or changed, curtailed, or abolished. Ha ha ha. By statute, code, or regulation. To maintain and declare your Christian common law jurisdiction, it is mandatory that you remove yourself from commercial free delivery. Remove the mailbox and identification numbers signifying your commercial address, and advise all who wish to send you first-class matter to do so as follows. Brother John Elias, okay. The Ecclesia at Wayne, to be called for in general delivery, Wayne Post Office, Wayne, Georgia State. Bam. Nice. Other publications in this series concerning your Christian appellation and the rules of English grammar will explain why certain letters in the beginning of words are not capitalized, while your given name and surname are written as above and without periods and brackets, signifying according to English grammar and the law. Your local postal service may try to tell you that general delivery is good only for 30 days and then it automatically cancels. They may cite sections 1.2 through 1.4 of the manual, see above, which states in part, postmasters may restrict the use of general delivery by consumers. But notice this is a consumer restriction, not a transient restriction. They will also quote, general delivery consumers or customers can be required to present suitable identification before mail is given to them, and general delivery mail is held for no more than 30 days unless a shorter period is requested by the sender. Subject to 1.2, general delivery mail may be held for longer periods if requested by the sender or addressee. Again, notice that the terms used are restricting the customers and the addressee, both being commercial terms of commercial personae, which does not apply to transients and sojourners. They may ask you to fill out a USPS form to request general delivery. This is not general delivery through the post office, but a commercial customer general delivery request of the USPS. You have no need to request that which is already common to all people and readily available without restriction, hence being of the common law. Such commercial-oriented request forms are for customers, not transients. Just advise everyone to start sending your first-class mail to you as shown above. Then go to the post office once a week and ask them for mail they may be holding with your name on it in general delivery. They will almost always ask you for identification. Hopefully, you personally know the clerk. Postal Service employees are allowed by postal regulation to hand to you mail without any further identification if you are personally known to them. If not, show them a copy of your baptism in Christ Jesus from the church, signed by Christian witnesses. If they insist on a picture identification, tell them you simply have no identification with your picture on it, such as a state driver's license. Tell them you are a good and lawful Christian who does not receive benefits from the government, including ID cards or licenses. They will most likely presume that you're one of those Quakers or belong to some other religious cult, and they will also be in fear that if they deny you any matter in general delivery, they may be in civil rights trouble. So they'll almost always give you your general delivery matter. The evidence of a mailbox on a house, in front of a house, or a post office box prove military commercial residency as an enemy in the field. A doorbell or door knocker is an invitation under military and statute law to break down the door if necessary without their own discretion, because it is presumed that the existence of such is to permit or allow anyone to enter for any reason once announcement has been made and without